Yeah, sure.
So how about you show me around the base you built and what everything does?
Yeah, man. So at the moment, what we've got off to our left here are 3 power plants running petrol upgrades. So these each
Hmm.
chuck out at 12 megawatts of power. So really, really good, really chunky. Powers our base nice.
How about
We've
you
got
talk
some.
about the upgrade system a little bit on each of these buildings?
Oh, yeah. So when you build these as diesel power plants, and when you open up the menu on them at the bottom right, there's a grayed out little bit because we've got the upgrade already. But you select that, you pay the cost, and you add the upgrade onto the building.
Hmm.
Each building can have 1 upgrade in total, and you can't change them once they're in currently. So
Okay.
it's yeah, you're stuck with what you get. So upgrade wisely, but you can blow up the buildings.
Okay,
So
so
that's always an easy reset.
yeah, so here's where we got all our power stuff, right? And these power lines are
Yeah.
powering the rest of the base.
Yeah. So the power lines themselves, they cost 5 BMATs each. You can place them anywhere.
Hmm.
The power lines have a distance that they can travel, so that's actually quite distancy, as you can see from over here. They go like a
Ah,
decent distance.
yeah, that is pretty
But
sweet.
each power pole can only have 4 connections. So
Ah,
it can go from one power pole to the next, and then can hit 2 buildings. So you've got to have a few power poles scattered around.
okay.
Um, yeah, these little things here, these are liquid transfer stations, so you can put liquids in here and treat them like a stockpile.
Mm.
You store lots of amount of liquids. You can store a mixture of all the different liquids, including all the new fuel types and things.
And
Really handy to bring in, and this is like one of the pads at seaports and stuff, so you can just dump the fuel container on it, and you'll interact with the transfer station.
nice. I've also heard these things you can like reserve them for the squad.
Yeah, so all the buildings that you make can actually be squad reservable. What it does, the production buildings, so these buildings and such, they just limit who can do upgrades on them, so no one can like grief upgrade your stuff to bad things,
Hmm.
which is really, really nice. And then the resource stations, so like the transfer station and some of the other resource stations around, when you squad lock them, only members of your squad can actually withdraw resources from them, so people can't just raid your supplies willy nilly.
Ah, that's
Really
cool.
handy.
Yeah, so it's like having a
Yeah.
seaport or something just right in your base.
Yeah. There's smaller quantities, but there's some really, really good versions of these, which we'll show you when we go further in.
Okay, cool.
So these little lines, these are oil refineries. So one of the new resources on the map is now the oil fields. So we're taking
Hmm.
away the old oil mines. You got to bring those in here, and then you can refine these into petrol using a number of different options. There's a bunch of different upgrades to get later variants of fuel. So you've got like later upgrades for heavy oil, and then eventually for enriched oil. We don't have access to that because that's at a later stage of testing. So for the moment, we're running basically a reformer where you mix water and oil to create more petrol for less oil, which is
Mm.
really nice.
Yeah, I see that. So it's
Um,
150 to 150 in the regular one, and this one it's only
yeah,
120,
and then,
and then a bit of water.
yeah. So we're saving on oil production. The oil fields can hold up to 3 oil derricks, which are the same model as the old oil mines.
Hmm.
But they run 24/7. They don't require fuel. There's some upgrades for them later on in the dev branch testing, which actually make them much more performance friendly, so you get more out of them. And
Hmm.
anybody can access them, no matter who builds them, which is
Could,
really good as well. So
could you
people
could you
can't.
say a word about
Yeah,
like the phases we're in and the phase
yeah,
testing that's
yeah.
going on?
So there's 4 phases of the dev branch testing. The first phase only allows us to test the early game mechanics, so we can test up to like tier 5 in research, I think. This
Hmm.
lasts for 2 days, so it's running from the 13th to the 15th at some random determined time. I don't know when. Phase 2 will cover the mid game, and phase 3 will cover the late game with a few days of testing for each of those as we go through. So we'll be able to test some of the more refined things as we go. And then
Well,
the fourth phase is where we get to have everything, and they let us have the magic loot boxes, so we can just spawn resources as we need them. So we'll
hmm.
go crazy with that shit.
I'm really excited for that part because we get to try out the new
Yeah,
super
same.
heavies and shit.
Yeah, we'll be able to spawn everything.
Uh,
Yeah,
the
super
the
heavy is
two
gonna be
di-
mad
the
fun.
two different views, the logi player and the tank player.
Oh no,
Okay.
we're super happy to test it. We've
Hmm.
actually got some stuff that you'll find really fun, which we'll get to when we get to the vehicle ones.
Okay.
So these are just our coal refineries. So that's the other source of material now. We need coal. This is where we refine it into coke, not the kind you snort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they used to.
Basically, coke's used as a recipe for other things. You can also make sulfur in these as part of the recipe, and it's at later stages you can make concrete and heavy oil and even oil in these by using different liquefaction processes, which is for mid and late tier phase testing.
Yeah, it looks neat.
Um, you need to take the coal to a refinery to get the foundations. These are the platforms we're standing on, and you need to
Yeah.
build these to build facilities on.
Yeah, you
But
build
as you
those
can
with
see
the.
from these, you only need to build it so the center of the pieces on it, so you can actually hang them off the side, which is just really cheap.
We
Yeah, these
use.
have to be built with the CV.
Yeah, the CV,
Everything
right?
here is basically construction vehicle built.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on to these
Yeah, over
buildings.
here, these are the material factories. So these are the material factories. These make all the construction materials that you need to make and upgrade most of the buildings you'll deal with, as well as like the rail lines and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, each of these has like different upgrades. So this one here's got the smelter upgrade. So we use instead of just turning scrap into construction mats, we add construction mats faster.
Mhm.
It's a more efficient process. So we get basically this counts as if it's like 3 other factories by doing that process. So it's super handy. And this one runs the forge upgrade. So we chuck petrol in this, and we can truck other things, and it gives us the ability to make some of the upgrade materials we need for vehicles and things. So that's where we build all that from there. We've got all this hooked up by minecart line so that we can easily access everything by minecart.
Yeah.
Switches are evil and the devil and can be burned on site. I won't have
Yeah,
to tell you that.
I've seen those. Like it lies to you. It doesn't. It'll
Yeah, the
if it
switches.
if it's saying it's
Yeah, so
going
we
off to
figured
the
out what
right,
they
it might
mean.
not actually be doing that.
So
And
we figured out what they mean. So the straight line means to the track that was built first.
oh, okay.
But, which is really good if you're the builder, really bad if you're anybody else.
Yeah, they you basically don't know which way to go until you
No,
actually go
and
on
you
them.
forget really easily. So these ones here, these are material transfer stations. These let you put all the palatable materials as well as like artillery shells, beams, and stuff. You can put them all in here and store them. Really nice. Same has the same restrictions. So if you squad lock these, only members of your squad can take these out. It's really good to store quantities in bulk. Like one of these stations can carry 1,000 shells of artillery.
Oh wow, that's a bunch.
Yeah, and obviously all these beams, these are all the construction materials that we're storing at the moment.
Do you want to take
As
a
you can see, you can. Yep.
you want to take a look at the mine carts now? Because
Yeah, they're just over here. So we've got one of the mine carts is here. This is the super amazing minecart method. You put the train on backwards and drive backwards, but by going forwards. It's an interesting mechanic because we discovered that the locomotive drives slower when it's pushing wagons rather than pulling wagons. It doesn't matter if it's going forwards or backwards.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you can drive this. So you can drive this backwards at the same speed by instead of but you actually have an easier time using switches by jumping off at the back.
Yeah, and these are the new raw resource containers over here, right?
Yeah, so like the other 2 resource stations, these are the raw resource containers. You can dump the raw resources, squad lock these, and no one can take them. So you can store components and sulfur.
Ah, yeah,
Like,
that seems
all of
great.
that.
How long
It's
have you been
absolutely
waiting for
amazing.
this, cause?
So long, like we've already got the component one almost full.
Oh. It's weird
We're
because
waiting. We're super keen for this.
when I was on all of the coal mines and the coal fields and
Mm-hmm.
the salvage fields, they were all at 0, and they would instantly get like 10 logi
Yeah,
people going to them. But the
like
component mines were all filled up.
no one's touching components because we've got no real use for them. Like, we've got no tanks to make. We've got nothing that we can really use the materials for. The phase 2, when we get to mid tier, is when they let us use pipes so we can start piping liquids. But those need components to make the materials that make them. So we're storing components in bulk, waiting for pipes.
Ah, okay. I think we've
So we're
got
setting up.
I think we got one more building, the vehicle assembler.
Yeah, we got one more building that comes up this way. This is really interesting. So there's a lot of different upgrades. We can only test one at this phase of the testing, which is the motor pool upgrade. It lets us do early quality light vehicles. So these require power, and they've got to be built on a foundation. You put the resources in there, and then it takes the resources out steadily as it builds. So it's not like you pay it all at once and it just builds the thing over time. It's really, really good with animations, and you can change vehicles back and forth pretty consistently, if I remember rightly.
Could we try out one of these trucks?
I just want to make sure if it's one of these, but yeah, I'll see if we can transfer one of these around. I haven't tried transferring a variant to another variant, so let's test that.
Ah, okay, so you've only tried doing like the basic land hauler.
Yeah, yeah, we put the basic Dune truck in, and then you can transfer it to any of the variants that it's got.
So
Yeah,
you can find out. Can you make this into any type of truck?
Yeah, so the normal Dune truck can be made into any of the variants at the very outset of the war. So load lugger, the leatherbacks of the armored variety, and even the Land Runner of the track. They're available at the very start of a war now. As long as you build this and you put the materials you need, you can just get them straight away. Really, really handy. Let's see if we can do it. Oh, it's not currently powered. We're not powered. Give me 1 sec.
Okay.
Yeah, these things go through power really, really crazy quick. Like, petrol goes very quick in these. So, there we go. All the lights come on. Nah, so it requires the base vehicle. I think we've got one around here somewhere.
I see I think a base one's right here. Yeah. That's interesting though, so that's gonna mean that...
So I can show you that. One of the things that you'll... Oh, yeah, perfect. Just bring that one over. We'll park that on there and we'll upgrade that.
That is unfortunate because it means that we can't transfer the highwaymen back to outlaws.
Yeah, so that's good to know. That's actually good for me to test. That's really good. So we'll just make this into a Land Runner.
So you just...
Apparently... we've had a bit of shenanigans with people around here, so we just got to repair that one quickly because people have obviously shot it.
Ah, yes. Bro, there was...
Yeah,
There was a brigadier general chasing me around with a flamethrower in the spawn region, and he was killing me with it.
Yeah, we've done a lot of flamethrower testing here. We've set a lot of buildings and people on fire repeatedly. All right,
Okay.
let's... do you want to hop off that? We'll see if we can set that up now.
Sure.
There you go.
And so
now this has a... So this is in the process. So, yep.
This is
As
going
you'll
to
see,
take
it does
5 minutes to change?
Yeah, and it will draw the resources needed out for it over time. So you just got to make sure you keep it. If this stops randomly while it's not finished, it'll be because it's either run out of resources it needs to keep making or you've run out of power.
Ah, okay.
So some of these, each of the times is different. So for the Land Runners, it's all like 5 minutes. But if you want to make like the minecarts, the minecart locomotive takes 15 minutes and the minecart wagons only take 5. And we'll assume that the higher quality vehicles, so the bigger vehicles, will each take longer as well.
Yeah, we might be saying like full day battle tanks or something.
Yeah, some of these could be like half hour to an hour for upgrades, which means you're going to be needing multiples of these. Each of these can have up to 5 upgrades, but each one can only have 1. So you're going to be looking at a lot of different assembly stations placed around with different upgrades to do everything. And then there's also higher size ones as well. So there's going to be like a proper motor pool was going to be pretty huge of these. There's 2 really good things and sort of bad things at the same time. Obviously, to use this, you have to uncrate your vehicles if you make them in a mass production factory and whatnot. So they're no longer reservable once you do that. Like you can't, for the combat vehicles anyway, the normal trucks you can still reserve them, you can put them in stockpiles. But for your normal tanks and stuff, if you want to upgrade it to a variant, you can't hide that away. So you have to you're going to work on timing. One thing we did find out is you can squad lock these. And when you squad lock them, it means that when it's done, the vehicle has like a special kind of squad lock that makes it reserved that only people of your squad can actually get in it no matter what.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's and that happens even if you drive onto it, you can set that to happen anyway, so you can use it like a parking space.
Oh, so if we park a vehicle here, then this is kind of like a new way of storing vehicles?
Sort of, yeah. So I don't know if it's what's intended, but it's what you can do.
Oh, well,
Did
sounds
test it.
amazing.
We drove a vehicle that couldn't be reserved onto it, and we were able to set it to be reserved on the pad, as long as it was on here. So it means that only the squad could get in it.
How long does that last?
We haven't tested. The dead branch hasn't been up long enough to see when it runs out.
Mm,
We've also got some really weird instances happening with squad lock. There's a locomotive squad locked down the track line that normally squad lock lasts like an hour or so. That's been about 12 hours now.
Ah, yeah.
So I think there's some unintended durations happening. So yeah.
Do we have any flamethrowers around we could test out?
Yes, we do. We've got some flamethrowers. I don't know if we've got flamethrower fuel. Is the question.
Oh, so do
No,
they use a special type of fuel?
They do. They use a basically a liquid fuel that comes for. You have to make them using high explosive materials, and they burn through fuel very quickly.
Ah, okay.
They're absolutely murderous to infantry. They do decent damage to trucks, but not really that good. If the vehicle's stationary, it's great. If the vehicle's moving, not so good. The projectile speed is very low.
Ah, so probably not the best for partisan work.
Yeah, we did a bunch of testing down the road here, seeing where we could partisan our own trucks, and it was just really difficult to actually get shots on them because by the time you're shooting, the truck's already going past, and the projectile was slower than the vehicle.
Okay, so seems like we do not have fuel for these currently, but we'll come.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, we. We don't have to fear them at least, which is the good thing. At later stages of testing, we'll be able to get the different flame vehicles as well. So, like the flamethrower armored cars and tankettes and stuff. So we'll be testing those on mass. We're very much looking forward to this. Nothing happens. It's fine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought I was gonna have to kill him.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Well,
no, because essentially, this is like a placeholder animation for the vehicle. You can't get in it. You can't drive off with it. Nothing happens. This doesn't exist.
Ah, I see. Well,
it's probably once the build is finished, the finished vehicle spawns and it acts as normal. But until then, this is just an animation for it.
Okay. Well, do you want to test out the new train? I think that's one of the only things we have left.
I do believe that's locked, but let me grab a wrench, and I should be able to fix that.
Okay. And we can also test out the new harvesters.
Yeah, so we can't test. We can show you the minecart, but we don't have the train. The train comes out at later stage testing. The big train. We're all very sad about that, but we all understand.
Yes, there's
that's going to be crazy.
No griping here.
Yeah.
No, we're not too worried. So we're giving the devs a lot of feedback, and some things that players think of that devs never do always happens in every game development. You know. Yeah, as players, we're ingenious buggers. So. Yeah. So each wagon you can actually jump on as well. So there's actually room for 4 people on them. Yeah, 1 on each wagon.
Yeah. And how many can this thing? What's the maximum amount?
This is the maximum. This is the maximum. 4? It can only have 4 wagons in the locomotive.
And it can carry about 3,000 resources?
So each of the little wagons can carry up to 2,500 raw resources. So the total carries the equivalent of 2 flatbeds worth.
Okay, and so it can only carry what the load lugger can carry, like the coal, the raw resources.
Yeah, it carries the raw components, scrap, that sort of stuff. So, like, that's the little train. It does really well. It sort of defies physics very heavily. You can go up steep curves and things much faster than vehicles really should, and even things that nothing else can, provided the tracks go there. Which is really, really quite handy when it comes to a lot of things. It's not very fast, no matter which way you're trying to drive. But, yeah.
I mean, still, carrying, what is this? 1.5 flatbeds? And you can
2 flatbeds worth. Yeah.
2 flatbeds
10,000 raw resources.
Yeah, and to just drive it to a resource field and back, all you need to do is press Control Q.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing. Is we've got tracks set up that lead to pretty much everywhere. As an example here, this is the signal that is lying to me.
One of the things I noticed that was kind of glitchy is that it seems like it shouldn't matter which way that direction's posted because we're going into like a Y, but
Yeah, I know. It's
Oh,
the signals
signals.
just are weird that way.
hmm
If you actually want to see the new resource things, we'll take this turn. If you want to swap the signal over, we've
Sure.
got some scrap miners down there. We'll show you.
Technically, there you could hide in the sea mats.
These are really, really slow. You can't run people over in them.
Sad face.
Yeah.
At least it will limit
However,
the amount of deaths that happen by
yeah. So
logi.
very much. These have 3 different track types. So you've got flat segments, raised segments, and on foundation segments. So the flat segments build normally. If you want to go up rises and up to like sharp curves and stuff, you run the raised segment, so you get a lot more height friendliness. And then flat segments for everything else. These are the new resource harvesters.
And the way I understand that it works is that it pulls from the nodes that have not been gathered yet, right?
Yeah, so the nodes that are spawned on there are still available to hammer away and take away. But while these have fuel, they'll basically sap from the nodes that haven't spawned on there yet. So
Okay.
again, each of these is reservable, but each of these reserve only stops upgrades from being put on them.
Okay.
That doesn't stop people taking resources out, so you can't clan man bad them.
So and you can access each car just from the driver's seat, right?
You can, yeah. You can access each of the cars in there from the driver's seat. There's little icons for each of the wagons. So you can pull from them directly into all 4 wagons, and we're assuming that will be the same with trains. And that works for all the resource buildings in the facilities as well. You can interact with them from the locomotive and interact with all the wagons to load resources and dump resources around and move them around your facility.
Yeah, that seems great.
Hmm.
And I've also noticed about the car is that it can carry 100 coal, and then it uses coal
Yeah,
instead of diesel.
it does. Yeah, so it uses it's a coal locomotive, and it burns through coal really quickly. If you watch the fuel gauge while you drive forward and watch the fuel gauge, and you'll see what I mean.
Yeah, it looks like a sprinting bar basically.
Yeah, and that's each of that bar is 1 coal being burnt every time it goes through. So, our trips out to like a coal field will usually burn like 40 coal just getting there.
I've heard that some people are they're putting coal in these carts just to make it to places.
Yeah, so they're using a cart as if it's a like a fuel wagon. So one of the things that the big train has is a coal tender, follows behind the main wagon, and it has a second person with the driver to funnel coal into it, basically.
Yeah. Well, let's get these resources.
Yeah. So there you go.
There we go. I can see this getting very annoying very fast. I think the first quality of life.
we're having frustration with that. We're flooding feedback to the devs, asking for them to let us interact with these from the locomotive.
I see that being the first quality of life update.
Like, why that wasn't done, we don't know. It seems obvious, but you know.
Imagine having when you're like freightering to get like out of the freighter and onto the bridge every time you need to interact.
Yeah, that's the same sort of quality thing.
Oh, it looks like I've got another.
It's alright. Yeah, there was just a fuel truck in the way. I had to move before swapping the signal over.
Okay, there we go. And then we can use our scrap.
Yeah, when you come, you can just dump them straight into the building, and you can do it for all the wagons. Super easy to do.
Wow.
That's one part that we really like the fact that you can just easily interact with facilities with this. That's a wonderful quality of life.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Okay, I think all we need to do is like check out all the stuff you can build with the CV now.
Yeah, so you can do so. It's essentially the same bar. So if you bring out your hammer,
Oh, you can do it with the hammer as well. Oh, you can.
yeah. So if you hit B, there's a whole section of tool, it's like a whole selection of symbols now that show you the different building options, what they cost, what they take, upkeep wise.
So
One of the things that we're very concerned about is the garrison supplies requiring to upkeep facilities. Each of these foundation pieces, so like this piece from like here up to here is what's a 2x2 foundation size.
Yep.
That costs 3 G-sups an hour to fuel for one of those.
Yeah, and I imagine you
And
need
you
a
have
lot.
to build compound. Like, yeah, I think this just for foundations alone is coming up to close to like 150 G-sups an hour.
For our non-engineers out there, approximately how much effort is this to maintain them?
Well, we're looking at for like normal facilities wise, probably if you want like a decent facility size, probably like 50 crates of G-sups a day.
And how much does that take to get fully made and then bring it down here, scrap all the resource?
Well, using like the current time frames as an example, like hitting an off-peak factory, it's 12 minutes for every 8 crates at the time.
I more mean how long would it take you? How much of your day, if you had to fully maintain this yourself, how much of your day would you have to put
If I had
aside
to fully maintain this, I'd be spending a good, usually between 2 to 3 hours just solo sitting in a factory because the timers go crazy when people show up. And with facilities being the major key factor of this update, we're expecting everybody to be building facilities and needing G-subs. So timers are going to blow out from like 12 to 24 minutes up to 1 hour for 8 crates.
Oh, wow.
So logi is going to have a nightmare, and engineers are going to have an absolute even more nightmare trying to not only supply these, but to supply frontline bases at the same time from the same means. We're not looking forward to it.
Okay,
but we'll see what we can do.
This new building menu, this looks really good. So we've got our defenses,
awesome.
we've got bunker pieces, utility.
And
what's this next one? Like factory stuff, or
yeah, so this is all the factory buildings, the facilities buildings and stuff. Yeah, very
then
much
the
so.
next one we got
the next one is all the harvesters, all the auto harvesters.
And so we got access to the oil well water pump and scrap one, but we don't have
the other ones are phase tech, so they'll come under like phase 2 testing, I believe.
And so this one is the next one's the power, and then like the roads and rails.
Yep. And the last one is the foundations, and then the provisional roads as well as rails.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for your time, Kaz. You've provided a very in-depth summary of all this. Oh, actually, one more thing. We've got the provisional roads over here, right?
Yes, this is one of the provisional roads. This is roads that we made. They did a nice thematic look. I don't know if they have that much. Like, there's been some comments that it has an increased speed for vehicles. I haven't sat down and tested that, but that's been some of the feedback I've heard from people.
Okay.
I generally don't end up using them. I drive in rails, and yeah, there's your brand new, June track truck.
Oh, okay, and it says here, right here, it's on reserved parking spot and can only be entered by squad members. That seems pretty nice.
Which is really awesome. So it means because if you set something to produce and you might not be there when it's done, especially for the longer times, it means you don't have to worry about someone from outside of your squad just walking off with your vehicle.
Yeah, I was just imagining, like, instead of just having to pull a crate of outlaws when we want to do an op, you have to, like, get it an hour before the op starts to make, like, the thorn falls.
Yeah.
And then you have to, like, be there and babysit them until you get everybody else on. Yeah, but this seems great.
Yeah, this was a wonderful surprise for us to find. We only found that out a few hours ago. We were just testing around and discovering it. But one of the things we were looking at was trying to figure out how we'll do like timing upgrades so that the upgrades are done when we need them for operations, so that we don't leave them sitting around and people walk off with them.
Okay.
But now we don't have to worry.
Yeah. Well, this seems. I think this is the actual end of the video. So thank you, Kaz.
Yep.
Again.
Right. Have a good one, Stu.
You too.